evening. Welcome to the edition of Keene Notes. I'm Randy Filiault.
And I'm Dave Richards.
We've seen you someplace before.
This is what again? Oh, this is in town Crier? I'm sorry. I don't know
Welcome
Chris
back
Coates.
to Chris Coates. You've probably seen him on this show more than once in the last few years. Anyhow, we were just kind of going down the street, and we just saw somebody kind of shuffling around. Looked like didn't have anything to do, and it's like, come on down.
I'm waiting for Barbara Streisand to start singing Memories.
Well, here we are, the three of us. Anything to talk about this week?
It's a pretty quiet week.
I can't really think of anything to talk about. Okay.
The beating at the State
So
House?
next week.
This was an easy show. And I do want to apologize because you're going to get a double dose of me this week. And if that's too much for some people, I apologize ahead of time.
You're going to be Cheshire TV, Chris Coates overload.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so
Elections.
Elections.
hey, before we even start off with the elections, one kudos we have to give out is to City Clerk Patty Little and her staff for coordinating and running, probably about the smoothest event election-wise. I mean, you look at other states, they're still counting the votes.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
But even I said over in Merrimack, New Hampshire, I think it was Londonderry, they had lines circled around buildings. In Keene, for the most part, I mean, it was busy, but you got in, you got out.
Yeah.
And,
No, I didn't think it was a problem at all.
not at all, not in Keene.
Were
And
you a
then-
greeter?
I was.
Were you a greeter?
Yep, I was too.
All three of us spent time being a greeter, and it worked well because it's kind of like a triage. It's
Yeah.
like you register to vote, go that way. If you're not, go this way, and
Yeah, it worked out well.
it was simple. Obviously, it was simple because the three of us did it.
Yeah, the turnout,
So,
the turnout was monstrous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a bake sale?
No, we didn't, and we still had the highest turnout in Ward 3. 88%.
Well, no, wait a second. I'm now in Ward 3.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Oh no, you guys did it to me again. It's
We
like
put you back?
It's like I run for council. I think I'm in I buy a house that I think's in the ward that I'm in. Then they tell me it's in Ward 2. I live there. I'm having a good time. My ward is across the street. And now, no. Now I got to drive to Fuller again.
That's funny because we all live in Ward 3 now. And that thing about wards changing where you live,
Yeah.
wonder what that's like.
Yeah, I know. The two bookends.
There's a conspiracy out there, I'm telling you. They must just look to see where we're at.
Yeah.
Where's Randy?
Yeah.
Move the line.
Let's draw a little line around that.
But I'm like one house on the street. It's like me and maybe two houses on the street are in Ward 3. Everybody else is in Ward 2.
So basically, every time they move
Wow.
it, they take your house
Yeah.
and keep you moving back and forth.
It's like Chris.
Maybe they're trying to tell you something.
That is kind of funny because you live right across the street and now you have to go to Fuller School. Guess you didn't know that, huh?
No.
You show up at the right place to vote this year?
I did. Actually, I was a greeter at Ward 2 though.
So was I.
And they had the better bake sale.
Yeah.
They had some good cupcakes.
That's why I was there. That's,
It's as you get older,
We
it's
didn't
the
need-
simple things in
yeah.
life.
We didn't need to entice people. People in Ward 3 wanted to vote.
All right, I'm
Yeah.
sick.
City clerk calls us and says, "Do you want to be a greeter?" It's like, who has the best food?
Well, yeah,
Ward
but
2, we're there.
I thought that a greeter was just, saying, hi, glad you're here. But no, it was a little pressure.
it was work.
A little pressure because you had people coming in and they'd look at you like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
And then there were some people like, yes, I'm here to vote. Yes, I have my ID. And they'd go right past you and say, hey, hey.
Or you go, but 99% of the people were great.
Yeah.
Probably even more than that. There was just a handful. And I did have a couple show up that said, I just moved to the area, so I'm going to vote here. And it's like, okay, what street do you live on? We'll double check it to make sure. Oh, I just moved to Swansea. It's like, seriously?
Yeah.
And they did, 2 people had come into because they were confused, obviously.
Yeah.
But all in all, it went really well. But there was a line for new registered voters all night long.
I think you're right on though with Patty Little and her crew because it was, and every moderator, because they had it down. They really knew how to have the flow going. There were lines, but more of the lines that I saw were for new registration.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they weren't all college kids. There was a lot of people that just moved here.
Yep.
And a lot from Manchester and Nashua.
Yeah. There were some elderly people, never had voted, came to Ward 3.
Yeah.
And this one older lady had brought a friend of hers, she had never voted. And I'd like to think they voted the right way, but they, but she was. We had to vote.
And
you can't say anything.
And that would be.
You can't. Oh, I can say it now. Yeah, Obama. But I couldn't say it then.
No.
But
Couldn't even
It was
hint.
funny because she was.
Yeah, he had a vest though that said Obama all over it. At the time.
They were nervous, and it was kind of nice being a greeter because I could say, no, look, these people are going to they're going to take good care of you right now. It's so quick and easy. Just walk right over here to this desk. And it was nice. It really went very well.
No, I thought it was a great day.
So with that said and done, the party down at Ramonto's was obviously a little bit more upbeat than the party down at Papagallo's, hence Democrat, Republican. I'd like to have been a fly on the wall, the Republican one, because that must have been pretty depressing.
Well, but what comes around goes around kind of thing.
It does. It does.
In 2010,
Yeah.
the tsunami that
Right.
took over the country with the Republican tide. So, I mean, I just hope that they can actually, like what I'm excited about in the state is that we've closed the gap. There's no more, supermajority. There's no more, the governor vetoes something, they can override it.
Right.
It's now,
Right.
we're close, and the Democrats took over the House. Who would have thought that?
Giantly took over.
Right, and the Senate is 1 or 2 votes difference, 13-11.
And that's not settled yet either.
Right.
So
it could be 12-12. That means people have to work together.
Yep.
What a novel idea.
I would hope.
Yeah.
Because you've seen it on the city level, I've seen it on the school level, and the county's felt it too, is that when they say a balanced budget, no, that's cost shifting down to us.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You're paying more for retirement funds, and the individuals are paying more for the retirement fund, but we're paying and on the school level, we're paying an added $760,000.
Yeah, and it was over $1 million for the city.
And that's because the state stepped away from their 36% obligation.
Right.
But they still have control of it.
Well, what they said was we lowered taxes, and we lowered spending, and all they did was shift it down to the city level.
Yeah.
And okay, now it's got to come out
Well,
of
for
your
the
local
average
pocket.
person, that actually means your taxes are going to go up more significantly because
Right.
it's dumped directly on them.
Yeah, room of meals. Do you guys?
Right, and how much did they chop out of that?
About
$250,000?
$1 million?
Or was it $1 million?
I thought
It
it
was
was
$1 million.
John.
It was
I've
$1
heard
million.
John say $1 million.
It was $1 million the city lost. And,
Yeah.
And
the county,
thank God.
Yeah, the county nursing home, they're constantly not getting the monies they need at the state. So it just flows down to us. And I'll tell you personally, I'm going on my 6th or 7th year without an increase in my pay, which I'm glad I have a job.
Right.
I'm truly glad, but at the same time, my costs are going up. The gasoline I pay for, the oil I pay for, the taxes I pay,
Yeah.
and so that's my issue. My issue is, and that's the pressure the Democrats are now going to face too.
Well, they did a lot of damage in other ways too. I mean, they cut the revenue department, which we talked about before, which is the guys who go out there and look for tax cheats for people who do pay taxes in New Hampshire, other than property taxes, with capital gains and those things. They cut that department in half.
Yeah.
That was our buddy and fellow city councilor, Chuck Redfern,
Right.
who had been up there for 20-something years.
30-something years.
30-something
Was it
years,
30-something years? And he knew exactly where to go after the tax revenue.
Right.
So what do? They eliminate his position to save some money, and he went after millions of dollars.
Yeah, and arguably each person in that department brought in millions of dollars.
Right.
And that's for people trying to cheat on their taxes. So, or making mistakes on their taxes. Could be either way.
Right.
But I mean, that's crazy. Just crazy.
And taking the monies they took away from the college.
So raise tuition, make middle-class families pay more for school.
And middle-class kids that are leaving college with more debt. New Hampshire has the highest debt in the nation. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. I mean, they take the monies away from the hospital. Okay. They also don't fund Planned Parenthood. So where are those people?
Right.
Because they get stuck on one issue. That's 3% of Planned Parenthood.
Right.
But they do so much more. And for people, that's an avenue for medical care, for health care.
But that showed up in the national elections. Obama won women in the swing states by 5 points.
Yeah.
And that's one of the issues that he won on.
Women's issues.
And we can get into it a little, I guess, but if you look at the demographics coming out of the election, I mean, that's the biggest one. Because women outnumber men as voters to begin with, and then you win them by 5 points. In 4 years, who are the Republicans going to appeal to?
Yeah.
Who's
Well,
going to
it's
be left?
interesting. I know you both watch. I don't know if you do, Chris. Morning Joe on MSNBC.
Oh, I watch Morning Joe.
Yeah, Morning
TiVo it.
And hey, Morning Joe before He's Republican, okay?
Yeah.
Even though we're not, he is.
He's moderate at times.
Moderate. But
no, I wouldn't say moderate. I'd say he's reasonable.
Okay.
They're making a good point this morning about the national Republican Party. You know, who is it they're listening to? Because obviously they weren't listening to the public. And they made a good point that they're listening to their entertainers, the Rush Limbaughs, the Glenn Becks. They're listening to them as if these guys are factual.
Right.
These guys are entertainers making millions. That's all they're concerned about.
Right. And the more controversial they can be, the more money they make.
Yeah.
But those are the leaders of the Republican Party.
That's who they're listening to.
I made the mistake of leaving my car radio on after Dan Mitchell's went off, so when I turned it back on, I hadn't turned it to one of the sports channels that I live for
Been there,
now.
done that.
And so Glenn Beck comes on. I swear to God, he was crying. And
well, he does that a lot, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
He's an emotional guy.
But he was like, I need another 300,000 subscribes to my Blaze. It's a TV thing that he does, or TV radio station that he has. If not, I can't keep going down this road, and I'm not. Wow. And I'm like, wow, you really are taking a hit. And then Rush was all over the place.
Did he say God was going to take him home if 300,000 people didn't join his TV station?
Yeah. One can only hope.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Rush. There was great. Lawrence O'Donnell showed a great thing on him. On Monday, he was saying, Romney's going to win big. He's going to win big. And then on Wednesday, he said, I felt it, but I told my close friends I didn't think he had it. And so you lied to your audience. You told him he's going to win big on Monday, and then on Wednesday, but you were telling your close friends and relatives that, no, he's not going to win it. So
that was like election night with Karl Rove. Yeah. On his own network, Fox Network, and they're saying, Obama has it. He goes, no. Yeah. I just spent $300 million. No.
Of other people's money.
Yeah, and they want it back.
But those are the people, aside from the entertainers, those are the people they're listening to. And it's going to be interesting over the next 5 years because the Republican Party could become irrelevant if they don't change their ways.
Right. Well, if they keep saying...
I got to be honest with you, I think a two-party system is a good thing, even though sometimes I don't want to see the other party do as well. And
I agree with that. But when you start talking about building a fence to Mexico and electrifying it so that it can kill people coming over it, George Bush won 44% of the Hispanic vote in 2004. Obama won over 70% of the Hispanic vote. It's the largest growing demographic. It's not going to stop. It's not going to change. And if you alienate the Hispanic vote over the next election, you'll never win another national election.
Right. Look at their convention. All right. I mean, they brought a Hispanic speakers onto the floor. But if you looked at the crowd, it was incredible how white it was. Yeah. And then you see the Democratic convention and how mixed it is. Yeah. It just they got to take a look in the mirror, and if they don't, then that's their issue.
See where you're going. I mean, but the talk people have built this up for them. They've built up the hate. Hate Mexicans. They're taking your jobs and they're stealing welfare.
Well, that's what they do well. Is they talk about hate. They don't talk about ideas.
Right. So hate them, and how do they expect to change that now? Because once you put that hate out there, how do you turn that back around? And I don't see how they're going to do it.
Well, it worked its way down to New Hampshire. You look at the State House with Bill O'Brien being the speaker. I mean, and Chris, I know you've been a legislator. At least up until the past couple of years, I mean, they'd beat each other up there, but with some kind of decorum. And then, I mean, that just went completely out the window.
Right.
He even hated people in his own party that would disagree with him once.
Yeah. The happiest Republican in this area, Susan Emerson.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's the one that first called him out. Because she thought he had treated her wrong. And good for her in that moment. And also, it's good that she got reelected and she's going to be a voice like that.
Yep.
So I wonder, Brian, he got reelected in his hometown, didn't he?
Who? O'Brien? Yeah. He lost? He lost the first town.
Yeah.
He won he won enough votes in the second town to come in second, and there was 2 seats.
Oh,
by
is that what
30
it was?
votes.
Oh, wow.
By 30 votes.
Oh.
So, it's a clear statement. And I love it because he gave an announcement about how, this is going to allow him, to work. He's looking forward to working with the Republican Party in leaders, and also that he will give him more time to focus on his practice. In other words, tail behind his book, and just going back into the corner. But yeah, I had the opportunity to sit on a committee with him when I was in the legislature, election law, and our chair was outstanding. He was a Republican, and I liked him a lot because everybody said that he had a mean streak in him. I didn't see it. He was actually very rational and very intelligent. And I can't think of his first name, and I apologize. But it's the age thing.
Yeah, we know about that.
You're still young.
Not that far, Marty.
But he was O'Brien was like an instigator. He just, he didn't. If he couldn't get his way, he was going to try to screw it up as best he could. And that's my only issue. My only concern is how much damage has he really done in his leadership? And
well, he's done a lot. I mean, he passed a lot of very bad things. Thankfully, the Magna Carta didn't get passed, but and now without a clear Democratic majority to kind of straighten some of those things out, they're going to live for a while.
Yeah.
The voter suppression, ID law will be there for a while.
Yeah. As long as the domicile issue that they took out, that the Supreme Court was illegal, so that that's what they took out. As long as that stays out, then all right, people. I didn't see anybody really having a problem showing their ID, some type of ID.
Right.
No, it went smooth.
What people need to know is that this is the first step. This next step is next time they will have the ability to have people get a certain ID, state ID, in the voting booth, in the voting area when you come in, is what Patty Little said to me last week.
So break that down a little more if you could.
My understanding is that this time around, the court said it was illegal for the domicile issue, so that college students could vote, and that was the piece that they took out. Everybody thought the ID voter law was done, but that wasn't correct. It was just that section that they took out. But Patty Little also said that next time around, that if somebody doesn't have an ID, that they'll be able to take a state ID, make a state ID right at the voter booth. That's what she said last time. Yeah. So that will be interesting too.
Almost like getting your driver's license taken, just take it and laminate it.
People, I didn't see anybody. I almost didn't show my ID because I wanted to see what the process was, but I also was worried my vote wouldn't count for a while.
Right.
And I was wrong. Yeah. That's only in Ohio that they did that, not in New Hampshire.
Or in Florida where they don't even count them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when's that going to end? But so yeah, everybody was fine with it. Everybody, even the older people that have been voting in their place they were ready with their ID.
But but New Hampshire's a little different. We're a little more affluent. We're an older population.
Maybe you are. Yeah. Speak for yourself.
Generally speaking. Yeah. We're by and large very white older state. I mean, it's changing, but slowly. Where you don't have as much poverty, people will have driver's licenses, they will have IDs. When you start talking about Detroit and Cleveland, places like that, Orlando, that's where you're really going to see more of a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not just going to be minorities. It's going to be elderly. Yeah. I haven't driven for 10 years. I don't have a driver's license.
But New Hampshire handled it well, didn't they? You sign it.
Yes.
You sign an affidavit saying you are who you are. The Secretary of State then sends you a letter, and you answer it. And if you don't, then they turn those names over to the Attorney General to see if they want to investigate or not.
Right.
That's the part I didn't like because I felt like all that is that a party could utilize that as all that voter fraud, and in reality, it's
there
not.
Isn't any.
It's not. It's
well,
not.
in fact, there's been 10 cases of voter fraud in the last 12 years out of 380 million votes cast.
Right.
Which, if you draw that out as a percentage, it's like 0.1501.
Yeah.
So this is it's purely voter suppression.
Yeah.
And that's where I don't really want to give them an in at all. It's just voter suppression. You really cannot. This isn't. And it did happen. Look, Lyndon Johnson was out there, getting votes in Texas from dead people, and
Well, they always say Chicago.
They say Chicago, but really it was Texas that where they got the votes.
One of those super liberal states, huh?
Yeah. Well, back then things were a little different. The South liked the Democrats.
Dixiecrats.
Yeah. But that doesn't exist anymore. That really doesn't. And this is pure voter suppression. And it really is racism.
It is. If you did it for the right reasons, that's and I don't know what the right reasons are at this moment, but if you did it for the right reasons, that's one thing. But to your point, the right reason. What is the right reason? There is no voter fraud. So there is no reason to
set up an entire, machine to get people to get IDs.
Yeah, instead of worrying about voter
doesn't
fraud,
exist.
they look at voter suppression. I mean, look what they did in Florida. He shortens the amount of time that people can vote.
Yeah, in Ohio.
Because the court, he wanted to cut back days because they do early voting down there because if they try to do it in one day in Florida, they wouldn't even get it done until the next election, counting the votes.
Yeah.
But so the courts told him, no, you cannot reduce the amount of days. So he goes, fine. He reduced the amount of hours. Totally for voter suppression.
Right.
No other reason, just voter suppression.
And this was great. I heard this on one of the news shows. Was nobody stands 5 hours in line to cast an illegal vote.
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody and these people are standing for hours and hours
people
on
were bringing
line.
chairs and food.
Yeah.
And people were selling food up and down the line, vendors and stuff.
See, there's a way to make money.
Yep.
You
See,
know?
capitalism does work.
Absolutely. So it's going to be interesting. I'm glad the state of New Hampshire now has gone back to, like you said, Chris. It's not so far to one side. I mean, the Senate's going to be split. I mean, the Democrats have the majority in the House. Once again, a moderate Democrat governor, thank God, because we know which way the other guy would have tried to have brought things. And hopefully we'll be a model for the rest of the country of a government that can actually get along. And I really think they will. We know there's some moderate Republicans up there. Usually they come from Cheshire County.
But a message to the Democrats, focus on the economy.
Yeah.
Focus. I know there's a lot of social issues that are important to me. But right now, worry about jobs. Worry about the economy. Worry about making sure that we sign the RGGI, the Clean Act that the New England has as a group, because we've seen what's happening to our world. So those are three things that I think you should really focus on, because people need to be back to work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Well, spent about 20 minutes on the elections there.
Oh, we can still go.
No, we got a couple things. I mean, Eli won.
Oh yeah,
Eli
I guess we can
Rivera.
talk about
But they are doing a recount.
They are doing a
You
recount.
won by 20 votes. You don't get much closer than that.
Yeah. Well, let's cautionary.
Yeah, it was interesting. I had the opportunity to be on Dan's show. You called in.
I did.
And one of the things I said earlier, I said there's three races to watch. Carol Shea Porter, because I didn't know how Manchester was going to go, and Ginta was the former mayor. I said the sheriff's race, and the last one was the Register of Deeds, and they were all close, but it was surprising, because the towns I thought Jaffrey would be more of a Republican and it's turned purple. It was not. It was a Democratic vote.
Well, particularly to New Hampshire with all the crazy stuff going on in the State House for the last 2 years, and truly crazy stuff going on. You probably turned off every moderate in the state. And they said either they didn't vote or they voted for a Democrat.
Yeah. I mean, what is it, 3 Republican legislators, and we don't know if it could be 2, because I don't know if they're doing a recount for Jane Johnson, who I think is actually a very sensible and moderate Republican. I mean, she's a former school teacher. And she listens and really does her homework on things. So, that's a great thing. And then but Bartlett Faulkner was the other person, and that they were close. And of course, Gus Lorando won because he's just Swansea. Everybody knows Gus.
Yeah, Gus is just a nice guy.
Right. So I think there might be a challenge there, but otherwise it was Wrench. John Hunt and Susan Emerson.
I'll tell you one person that personally I was glad to see get back in. That was Dan Eaton, because I know back in the day when I was going all through my issues with a couple of corrupt people up in the state.
You had issues?
Yeah, I did. They did.
Let's talk about that sometime.
Yeah, that's a long story for another day. But I'll tell you, the one person that came to bat and told the truth and was honest the whole time was Dan Eaton.
Yeah.
And he took it on the chin because they didn't like him, going after certain officials.
Yeah.
And so that and the whole Republican tsunami back then, Dan got washed out, and good for Dan. And obviously you take it on the chin. We've all had elections that didn't go the way we wanted, and Dan, he brushed himself off, got back up, and back at it again. And he gets to go back there without O'Brien being there or as speaker. So
you might look at it as a kind of a nice little vacation away from the mania.
Yeah. Little break for Dan. So anyhow, Dan Eaton, good job there, buddy.
One of the things that people haven't really talked about is who's going to be the next speaker, and people obviously go right to Terry Norelli, but David Campbell from Nashua is going to challenge her, and it'll be interesting because he's been there for a while, He's got, I mean, the Nashua faction, which usually melts into the Manchester faction.
Yeah.
So it will be, it could be an interest, and Cheshire County will significantly play a role. And knowing Cheshire County, they don't always go with the old leadership. They go with what they think is the right thing to do. And so they could line up too, and that's a faction of 20 to 21 votes, depending on
what happens. If we can get, you're right, Chris. In the past, we had the influence, but everybody kind of went their own way. Cheshire County, if they can all group together, they're going to have a lot of say up there.
Yeah.
So, hear that, guys? Stick together.
Well, I would hope that finally we would get some type of leadership up, because we've got a majority, and it's clear that Cheshire County as a whole, we give a lot of votes.
Right.
I mean, Molly Kelly came out, and just start with Keene. Molly Kelly came out with at least a 3,000 vote lead.
Oh,
she just bumped it up from there.
I felt she was going to win the whole time. She's done a good job, but the amount she won by, against a well-known, Dick Foot's well-known.
9,000 votes? Yeah, but
here's... But she also, look, all these folks benefited by what they've done in the State House in the last 2 years. I mean, they've all, they've done well on their own, absolutely, but then the rejection of the insanity that's been going up there with, oh, you don't agree with me, your office is in the basement next to the furnace, and I mean, just the petty silliness.
I wonder if O'Brien's office is going to be in the basement near the furnace.
I wouldn't think he's getting the top floor.
I don't think he'll have an office at all, to be honest with you, unless you're in leadership. You're not going to get an office.
Basically go out and wait in your car.
And he'll have a parking space probably a little ways away. Yeah. Because there are closer spaces.
Your office is in that little building with the panel that says occupied.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you know what? Yeah, kudos to Molly Kelly.
But she's shown her leadership. I mean, you're right. Dick Foot is a great guy.
Yeah.
He's been a good sheriff.
Yeah.
But Molly Kelly's been a good senator.
Yeah.
And she's been a good senator not just for Keene. The communities know her. Right. And so that's where I think she made her gains, is because people believe in her. And I like the fact she has the Junie Blaisdell philosophy: run like you're 17 points down.
Yeah.
You have to do you have to be aggressive about getting your vote, because people, I think, honor that and look for that in somebody. So good for her too.
Well, it's funny because I kind of want to slide over to something national on that thought about getting your vote out. And this is really on the national level where the Republicans missed, was the Obama.
Don't give them the inside secrets.
It's too late now. They're going to know. Was the get out the vote machine by Obama. And what I really got a kick out of was, I watched the polls. If you look at off polls, you can look at all 20 polls in a row and see how they come out.
Yep.
And Rasmussen, of course, the right-wing poll, was always out of kilter with all the other ones. And I just kept looking at that and saying, how can that be? Yeah. How can they be, how can they be that far off? I mean, they can diverge a little, but they were always, a few points off. They had no idea how much that ground machine had been working on. The best kept secret of the election. Now, you got to remember, Obama's been doing this for 18 months. He didn't have a primary. He was on the ground getting neighbors to talk to neighbors for 18 months. Very quiet, very under the radar. And that showed up. People under 30 voted more in 2012 than in 2008. Nobody would have thought that could happen.
Because the media was saying that the energy wasn't there like it was the last time.
That's exactly what they're saying.
But it doesn't.
And it was there. It's just quieter.
Well, but it's the first time. It was just wildly exciting. I mean, Barack Obama. Who could have imagined that? So it was a real exciting thing. But he didn't lose all those people. You can't replicate that. You'll never replicate 2008.
He did lose votes. I mean,
he did.
He was down by I want to say about 10 million votes.
Well, the whole election was down.
Right. Well, that's the crazy thing. You would think that somebody that would lose 10 million votes, and that's what I read yesterday. But the Republicans lost millions of votes too, and it's like, huh?
Well, it was the excitement of 2008.
Yeah.
That made that the biggest turnout ever. Right. And just the nature of Obama was so strikingly different and very exciting. You'll never, it's like winning your first Super Bowl. That's never going to happen again.
Yeah.
So now how do you do it? And they got to work on the mechanics. They were very smart.
Yeah. You just talked about a holy thing. My first Super Bowl. I mean, that's a holy experience. Sorry, I got a little.
We're going to get to that a little later.
He's a San Francisco fan.
Yeah, we're going to get to that a little later in November when we come and beat you guys in New England.
Yeah.
How can you even be sitting at this table if you're not a New England fan? How do you put up with
It's
that?
been really hard.
They let me off the hook because I'm a Red Sox fan.
I tell you, Chris, I leave here and when we start,
Again, that doesn't get you off the hook either.
we talk football and I hear so much about San Francisco. I like need counseling.
Yeah.
It's like, man.
So I cut you off. I apologize.
But if you look at how this all played out and how all these things happened, the voter suppression laws, if you ask me, brought out more voters. People were angry. You're telling me I can't vote? You're going to take it away from me? The lines in Florida, right? They went on till the morning.
Oh, they still have lines in Florida.
They somebody who waits 12 hours in a line. Yeah, they're not there to cheat the system.
I became a big fan of Nate Silver, and Nate Silver writes a blog called 538 blog.
Yep.
And that is, if people don't know, 538 is the total electoral votes. And so I'd go on it daily. I mean, I was hooked.
I did so, yeah.
Because, and look at, I mean, the last election, he had one thing wrong, and that was one senator's race. What did he have this election? One thing wrong. He said North Dakota, he went against his own stats. His stats said that North Dakota would go to a Democrat, but he said that he felt that it was going to go Republican, and it went Democrat. Yeah. And so he screwed up because he didn't follow his own stats. But everything else, he was 100% on. I mean, the guy's scary, but it's unemotional. Rasmussen,
right?
I think Rasmussen is got a political charge to it. So I wasn't reading that or the Gallup poll either because I felt like they were not taking in everything, and this guy was taking in all the polls,
every bit of data he could get his hands on.
Right.
And, well, with Gallup, Gallup, I'm not sure, and it'll come out yet, but I don't think that was really a right-wing leaning thing. I think what's going on is, first of all, 30% of people in this country have cell phones. They don't even have a home phone.
Yeah.
So how are you polling them? By and large, they're younger.
Boy, they got my cell phone.
You know, see, they didn't get mine.
They didn't get mine. They didn't.
But they will.
My home number is on my cell phone.
So, okay.
So they should be able to call me.
But young people...
They probably didn't even bother calling him. We know what's going to happen.
Young people don't have landlines. Yeah. Okay, they have a cell phone. If you can't reach them, that's going to skew it.
Yeah.
And that's you know, in the modern era, how do you get to those people? So PPP was one of the best, and that was the Democratic one. They were like number one, right on the tick. Yeah. And not skewed, not anything. This is how it turned out. So maybe they were calling cell phones or at least figuring out how to get to those people who have cell phones. And then you look at 4 years from now, it's going to be 40%, 50% of people who no longer have a landline in their house.
Well, let's get into a little bit of local stuff here. Let's call it Chris's cell phone since we dragged him off the streets here today. Getting away from elections a little bit, I want to roll over to some school issues since
he's here.
That's Chris's latest thing he does when he isn't spending all his time at work. Chris.
Yes.
Anyhow. Let's get on to the one that's getting the most press and has been for a while, and that's the proposed school alignment in Keene. Mm-hmm. And I know as chair, you've probably heard from more than one or two people on this particular issue, maybe 3 or 4. What is the purpose that going away from the traditional K through 5? And I know we want to split it up, K 1 and 2 in some schools, and then 3, 4, and 5 in others. Mm-hmm. Where did this proposal come about, and why do you endorse it?
I haven't endorsed anything.
Okay, let me rephrase that.
I haven't endorsed.
Do you think it's a good idea?
Well, and again, I think that what we're doing, I'm going to go back a little bit. It's been a three-year journey. Okay. And what we looked at is when you and I were in school, you know, at least in the Keene area, the enrollments were much higher. They were, you know, in the high school, they were 2,000. And now they're 15-something. Mm-hmm. So when enrollment goes down, you have to look at your teaching staff. You have to look at your building costs. And I'm going to go off course a little bit, but it will tie in. And we've done that. And I think I'm very proud of the fact that this board, under the leadership of Neil Donegan, Kathy O'Donnell, and now myself, we've looked at buildings that we're not utilizing, and we said we need to get rid of those. The middle school is a different story. The middle school, we're heading down that road no matter what. And people will say, well, why didn't you take care of it? We did take care of it. Codes change. And that was the biggest problem there. Codes change. And so the hallway that had the lockers in it, the lockers now needed to come out because they weren't wide enough, because the federal codes and the state codes and the federal fire marshal codes all were telling us, dictating something. Sprinklers in buildings. You know, you have 80-year-old building, 100-year-old buildings. Yeah. They didn't have sprinklers back then. and now they're saying we have to sprinkle everything. It's not that we don't have safe buildings, but we had to do something about that. At the same time, we had all these buildings that we weren't utilizing, and now if you look at it, Tilden, Roosevelt, the SAU will be going soon. We have a bid on that. In the middle school, we have a beautiful state-of-the-art middle school that kids are going to be able to have the technology level that is going to help them as they move on to their life careers, whatever it may be. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that we have some of the highest, in the elementary school, we have the highest level in the state of cost per student, okay? And, but Keene is pro-education. And so, we've set that framework up. But as we saw enrollment going down, we said we needed to take a look at, is it time? I'm a Lincoln school kid, okay? So I know about closing a school because that was my school.
Roosevelt,
yeah.
Mine's gone.
Right, and so I know about that stuff, and I know it's hard on a community. So we took a look at, do we downsize? So we had the same Frank Marinese and his crew who did the work out at the middle school came in and did some studies for us, on the elementary school level around building and what would be needed if we went whatever direction. Then we started looking at models throughout the state. And there's narrow grade span is not just something that we thought off the cuff. There's a multitude of schools that we visited, some of them, that have narrow grade span. The things some of the good things about narrow grade span, and I want to make sure people understand, I'm going to be talking about the positive both because I haven't made a decision yet. On Tuesday, we'll be having a vote, and that's when we decide. But the narrow grade span, there's some great things that happen with that. One, you have some third grade teachers or first grade teachers, second grade teachers, whatever it may be, that work in a building and they're the only grade teacher in there. If all of a sudden you have a narrow grade span, you have all these teachers that are in one building working together that can actually co-teach, that can actually develop curriculum and move forward and can support each other. You may have a teacher that's not as strong as another teacher that then can mentor that teacher and move her along in areas that she's struggling with. Not to say that that can't happen with a K through 5, the K through 5, and also you have a lot of equity issues. You have, somebody might have a full-time guidance counselor and a full-time phys ed teacher and for 130 students, and we may have the same for 300 students. Is that equal? There's a latitude, the whole long list of issues that are concerned on that side. But the biggest one that we're hearing on the K through 5 is it's a known factor. It creates a neighborhood school. So I believe that a lot of people that have come out and voiced their opinion are really concerned about losing their neighborhood school, and that we're saying right now that Jonathan Daniels is the school because of the structure and how it was built. It was open. If you've been to Jonathan Daniels, it's an open concept. So we'd have to pretty much do what we did at the library, and that is take everything right down to the cement block and just build it back up from the foundation. And other schools like Wheelock, even though it's across the street from Panucci's and other, there's a lot of the structure there is good and it'd be less fiscally to be able to build out there than it would be out. It'd be 2 times the cost out there. So we chose Jonathan Daniels, not to close, to repurpose. It's on the line with now the wood chip burner that heats the SAU and the middle school. Mm-hmm. So the heating system has gone down. I think we saved close to $100,000 last year in oil costs because of the wood chips, and that's only going to get better because it was our first year. Right. So that's huge to us. But at the same time, we'll repurpose that. We have issues with the preschool, and because it's our preschool is growing, and people will say, well, why are you running a preschool? We're mandated when a child turns 3 that has a special needs issue. We're mandated to support that child.
Well, statistically, preschool it gives a great leap forward to so let's think about it that way too.
Yeah.
Let's think about what's good for education. Yeah. I'm very pro-education.
Yeah.
I just I want the money spent wisely.
Yeah.
But as we learn more and more about how children behaviorally develop, and then this is your field. Mm-hmm. The earlier you can get them into preschool, the better they read, the better the math scores. Mm-hmm. So we should look at it that way instead of looking at it as dollars. Mm-hmm. And then, is this the right thing to do? Mm-hmm. Then look, okay, now can we do it?
Yeah, and plus, We're mandated.
But I'm not just.
You can look at it on all sides, but we are mandated. But I agree that the earlier we can get a child into our education system, the better for the child. Not the better for the school system, the better for the child.
Yeah, and what I was going to, I know you're mandated for the developmental issue.
Yeah, special needs.
I'm talking about any kid.
Yeah.
And we
that's
should
what's
look
happening.
to the future that way.
Yeah, and that's what's happening with because we don't have just children in that preschool with special needs. It's 50-50 actually.
Yeah.
It may be 60-40 on some levels, but it depends on the day because there's different students coming in all the time. So and we have a goal of having by third grade having 100% proficiency of kids reading at third grade level by next year. I think next year. I mean that's our goal. We want kids because if they're reading helps with math. Reading helps with all these other things. Plus, it opens up. I had the opportunity this week to go up and read at Franklin to a class, and Dr. Seuss, classic. But it's
you got to admit, they're a lot of fun to read.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when I was reading Dr. Seuss, I really became the actor.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah, and I was in a 5th grade class, but I was doing the and he did, and I get to know the kids, but I talked to them about it opens up a whole world.
You were theatrical?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a shock.
I know.
Wouldn't picture that
one time.
Like every politician's looking at a little bit of theater.
Yeah. No,
don't kid yourself.
But so so I think we hear the community. There was a non-binding warrant article put on there about that citizens put on that people will that said you shouldn't close the school and you shouldn't do narrow grade span and people saying why aren't you following that? Because we had a process that we started 3 years ago. And we're going to end that process, and it was non-binding. It's something that I'm taking as informational. Mm-hmm. It's clear to me there's a majority out there that says this is the situation. So what happens on Tuesday is that we all sit down, and I have to tell the community. I said this the other night. Every board member, Randy said it earlier. I've been in the State House. I've been on the City Council. I've been on the school board. First of all, I got to say, guys, this is the hardest work. When you have to pass your budget in front of the community, it's pretty darn hard, okay? And all the colleagues that I have on the school board, there's not one that is not pro-education. Now that may mean that people need to understand they may not vote the way you want them to vote, but it's not because they don't care about education in the community. And so it's going to be an interesting conversation. As chair, I won't say anything until the end because I don't feel I should voice my concerns early on because I don't want to flavor it anyway. So I'll let the conversation go and then we'll vote. And if we vote for a narrow grade span, that's how we'll form the warrant article. So for the monies, if we vote for keeping it K through 5 but repurposing, both of them repurposing Jonathan Daniels, then we'll put the warrant article that way. And there's not much of a change. It's going to be about $6 million either way, okay? And so then the voters will have to pass it, and it has to be 60%. So you can figure out the difficulties we're going to have one way, and we may have the ability to do it another way. But that's sometimes you have to make hard decisions of what you believe is the right thing for students, and it gets shut down. And I mean, Keene Middle School got shut down the first time. Next year, it passed by 84%.
I guess not to defend, but to make it a case of one thing I liked of not breaking the grades up.
Mm-hmm.
Specific example was my son when he was in kindergarten, first grade at Fuller. They
5th graders come down.
5th graders come down. They put on the safety stuff and help the littler kids in. And then when my son got to 5th grade, he was the first one to want to be the guy who went down and helped the other kids in. So you have that kind of kid community,
right? I
guess, and so you've said that you're not definitely one way or the other. What are your thoughts on if you do that? If you do the single grade stuff, how that goes away now? What kind of effect will that have?
Yeah, I mean, those are the concerns that we have to have. There was a report put out by those who voted against it, because it wasn't a clean vote out of the committee.
Yeah.
And so, 3 of the principals said they have concerns, and those are the concerns that you're going to lose that atmosphere they feel. I don't know if that's true or not because you'll still have second through 5th, so that's 4 grades. Okay, I know people say, huh? second, third, fourth, and fifth. Because, you know, and so that's 4 years of kids, you know, younger kids being with older kids. You can curate that same atmosphere, but I understand that it will never be the same. You know, when you walk in as a kindergartner and you're looking up at the big kids and you're like, and you're, you know, you're shaking and because it's your first day of school, but then all of a sudden the kid looks down and says, "Hey, how are you?" Yeah. It's that warm moment.
Let me help you get you to your classroom.
Yeah. So I mean, and you see those moments all the time. So it's like I said, it's gonna be. I don't pretend to know where the board's gonna go on this. I don't have a clue.
We've got about 12 minutes left here. It's going by way too fast. You had just mentioned about buildings in the school district. Yeah. 34 West Street has come back around again. Yeah. Sounds like we have a bid back on it. Now, is this the same bidder that was around the first time when I believe
in the city? No.
Yeah, when
I would have voted to sell it.
A certain city committee screwed up, but and dropped it back in your lap. Yeah. But so we have another bid on it. Looks like coming up this week. See if to determine if we accept it or not. Is that basically where it's going to be at?
Yeah. It looks that way. It looks like we're going to be moving forward, and I think that's a good thing. I think I don't want people with the Keene Middle School. People, even City Manager John McLean will say, "I wish we could have put some stipulations into the building." Well, to be honest with you, you probably could have. It would have hurt the sale.
Or stopped it.
We may. It would have been. It may not have been. It may have been a building that we were still putting money into because we needed to maintain it. And second, even if you didn't do that and you tried to get somebody that was going to come in and do some things that you liked, they can turn around tomorrow and sell it. And you don't have control. So the best thing we had an offer. We felt like we needed to move with that offer. Because of that offer, we were able to do some things that didn't hit the taxpayer at all, like the North Campus. You know, when we sold Roosevelt, because of the North, we were able to do something with the North Campus coming out, and that's what they used to call TNT. Right. But it's now the North Campus. But we were getting the state and feds saying that we needed to move it back on campus, and so we were able to take monies from a sale and not reach into anybody's pocketbook out of it. And I think that's a smart way to do business. But I don't know. I mean.
Well, hopefully they keep the bid on the table. The bid's accepted. Hopefully they buy it. Yep. And if it's the same company and the same proposal, turn it to a bank because it looks like a bank.
And put people to work. I would have supported it the first time. It didn't.
Yeah, they didn't come to you and I last time.
But it's been interesting because there's been some interesting opportunities that I've heard could go into that.
Well, I think the arguments against selling it for any reason that I've heard down there just don't add up to me. I mean, they just don't add up. Nobody's going to buy that building and tear it down. That you wouldn't buy that building to tear it down. You'd buy it to make it look like something nice. It's a beautiful building on the outside. There's old furniture, but it needs help. Yeah. So let's get a developer in there to buy it for whatever price. You know, from the city point of view, whatever the school sells it for, they're going to put $200,000-$300,000 into it. If it's a bank, certainly. Now what's it worth to the taxpayer? A lot. And it's being used and it's back on the books.
Well, actually, it's on the books.
Well, is it one hand paying the other hand?
No. But if somebody purchased this building, it will go on the rolls.
Right.
It's not on the rolls right now.
It's not on now, right? No, that's what I'm saying.
So it goes on the tax rolls and it employs people.
I mean, it was one of the things when I was on the council and they were talking about the railroad yard. That was the dirt parking lot. And the people are like, why would we pay to put infrastructure down there? Well, because of the revenue that's coming out of it now.
And we were all there when that happened. The heat that we took for putting the infrastructure down.
Or Black Brook.
Same thing.
$4 million worth of infrastructure. And people thought we were crazy.
Yep. Funny, I had all the meetings to that one, I remember.
Oh, yeah.
That one I remember. That was right before the turn of the year. And that was brutal.
Sitting through there and taking the heat and no mercy when there's infrastructure because they looked at it as dirt.
I think it's good business. I think what people need to know is one of the things I learned from the council is that we now have a CIP, a clear CIP for
capital improvements program. Yeah, kind of programs that go a ways out.
Ways out for the school system. We also have a computer system that can go into any classroom and say when the carpet was installed, say when it was last painted, when the last light bulbs. I know it's something that we purchased.
It's micro maintenance. We use it at my company.
Yeah.
And the maintenance for our facilities. Everything they do gets put in there, and it just creates a log of when
Right. And so we can go in and we can really know what we need to do clearly and how we're going to do it. And the board knows what's coming up and what's hitting us in the face. Because at the end of the day, if we don't get anywhere next week with either of the votes, we need to do some of the fire stuff that's there. Yeah. And again, I want to say, it's not that our buildings aren't safe. Codes change, and we need to meet those codes.
We all get caught up in that one when the codes change.
Well, you know, the simplest thing to describe it is sprinkler systems.
Right.
Didn't used to have them. Of course, buildings used to burn down.
Right.
Now you have them. It saves the buildings.
Right.
Hey, I'm going to, with about 7 minutes left, I'm going to jump over really quickly about what went on in Keene police-wise in the past week. I'll go down it pretty quick. This is 2 weeks' worth of calls, Chris.
Good.
Huh? We have a big budget here, you know. Better watch it. Town Crier now is going to come forward for their budget increase.
Oh,
anyhow, the last 2 weeks in Keene, noise and disturbances in Keene, there were 70.
How can you even do that straight after that?
Hey,
all right, keep going.
Big budgets now, you know.
Right.
There was 70, which is par for the course. Right across the board, down a little bit in the college area, which cooler weather, kids are smartening up. They're not walking down the street with open containers. They're getting educated. It's happening. Alcohol arrests in Keene, 27 across the board. Drug arrests, 17. Most of those happened down at the college area. Most of them were for pot. Right. It is what it is. Some things don't change.
But I will keep arguing that this town does, on some levels, have a drug issue. And that the meth clinic, I've never liked it. I've been told people that I haven't liked it, that I think it creates a heroin issue in the city. And it's a cheap drug, and it's an everlasting drug. And because we have a college audience, it worries me even more.
And one thing that we pointed out about drug arrests, and the college has a higher percentage of the arrests, but it's kudos to the college because their security staff now, if they suspect or see something, they call the Keene police in immediately. They don't ignore it. So it shows a percentage of college kids getting arrested, maybe more so than the general public of Keene for drugs, but it's because they're proactive. But what you're saying is absolutely correct. Where you have that many young people, it is a target audience for those that are trying to deal drugs. Yeah. No doubt about that. Anyhow, moving on. Domestics. Domestics is one of those, and I always tell people what's trending upward. Domestics, there was 14 over the past couple of weeks. That's trending upward. You know, hitting the colder weather, you know, the holidays, the pressure. You know, you see that. That's trending upward. Suicide attempts, also trending upward, another 5. We've been watching that trend upward. Criminal mischief and criminal trespass, there's 14, stayed about the same. Assisting the fire and ambulance was up to 24. So that really spiked. I don't know if that had a lot, I know what a lot of it had to do with motor vehicle accidents were way up. There was 30. So I think that kind of contributes to that. Let's see. 8 ordinance violations in the parks and cemeteries. They're closed after dark. You can't go there. Suspicious persons, somebody like Chris running in your backyard, 24.
That could happen at any time.
That's gone up. You see him running out there, call. Theft and shoplifting, that's up, 32 calls.
Whoa, that is up.
Seasonal.
Yep.
Holidays are coming. And the typical animal complaints back up again to 32. Bring Fido in the house.
Yeah, don't have them freezing out there. Come on.
And quickly, the fire calls for the week, 93 calls in the past week. That's up quite a bit. There were 7 fires, 1 major building fire, 1 cooking fire, where they saved your kitchen and you're all set. 5 EMS calls, 4 for motor vehicle accidents. 7 hazardous material hazmat calls. Those were lines down. 1 service call to assist the police. 4 good intent calls, and 17 false alarms last week. None malicious.
Oh, okay.
A bunch of smoke detectors were all defective and going off.
We can work with that.
We can,
none malicious. Okay. And Dave and I talk about it. And Chris, remember back in the day when malicious calls, especially at Keene State, the fire department would be running there 10 times a week. They don't do that anymore.
And I also think Keene State tightened that up too. It's
Huge.
It's a hurt fine now.
Oh yeah.
It didn't used to be a hurt fine, you know.
So it was active a couple of weeks for police and fire. Some things are trending upwards, and we will keep you informed. We have 4 minutes left here, guys.
Can I just?
You can throw in anything you want in 4 minutes.
I want to congratulate Anna Tilton winning the Register of Deeds. With that said, I also want to thank Evelyn Hubble. You know, she's been there over, I want to get this right, I mean, it's over 30 years. And I think it's closer to 40, actually.
It's really that long, yeah.
I think it was 38 as the Register of Deeds, and then there was 3 years before that she was an understudy, you know, learning the ropes. So, I mean, you can't give 41 years of your life and not just go out the door without somebody saying thank you. I mean, she's done a good job for the county. So
that's one of those tough positions,
yeah.
Kind of like sheriff. Is
Yeah.
that really, is that a position that should be elected, or is that a position that should be hired?
Well, and with sheriff particularly, I don't think it should be partisan.
Not at all.
It's not really a partisan role.
No.
I think it should be. I think it should be an elected position, but I don't think it should. I think it should be like a city council.
Nonpartisan.
It's where you're putting down as you're running for, not as from a party, but for a position.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean.
Because even if it's an appointed, that's political.
Right.
You know, so you know, at least make it nonpartisan and put it that way. And even the county attorney.
Right.
You know.
I mean, you know, Peter Heed doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter where.
Doesn't matter if he's Republican,
do you
Democrat.
know that the Democratic side beat the Republican side for Peter Heed?
Really?
Yeah. I voted. That was my one Republican, well, you know, but it's just like you vote. How do you vote, Republican or Democrat on that one? You know.
Well, that's funny. So more people voted for Peter on the Democrat side than the Republican side. See, we can shift.
Yeah.
You know, occasionally.
But that says a lot about Peter Heath, though.
Oh yeah, Peter Heath's very. You know, I mean, you don't.
Apparently, he's extremely acceptable.
You don't go after a criminal and decide what party he's from.
Right.
No, and the thing is that Peter has worked hard to be a community member.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And he's everywhere, always out there doing it, and so people respect him for that too.
Yep.
So that's how he gets there. And tomorrow, I'll be traveling to Bedford to watch the Keene High Blackbirds beat Bedford.
And kudos to Monadnock High also, who are in the state championship tomorrow. So both local football teams.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, I've caught a lot of the Friday night games are great. Chris and I bumped into each other out of the games, and Friday night games, that's so much more fun than the Saturday afternoon games used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, the crowds are bigger. You know, the atmosphere is just more intense.
I mean, the Monadnock game, I went down to one of the Monadnock games. It was great to watch. Linwood Patnute has done a great job down there with his team. The John Lupa's team, though, they're like, if you've ever if you haven't gone to a game, watch Oregon. And the coach out there actually was the offensive coordinator for UNH. And he runs this, I mean, they don't huddle. They show colors, they call out certain Duck or Oregon or this or that, and they run a play. And
it's fun to watch.
Teams don't get chances to take a break.
Yep.
And, you know, they don't get other players on. I mean, it's just crazy.
About 15 seconds left. First, to my fellow veterans, happy Veterans Day, guys, this Sunday, 11 a.m. at the Rec Center. It's a small service. It's really nice, poignant. Be there, then you can go up to the American Legion after, have lunch, and watch the American Legion band. And guess what, guys?
We're out of time.
We're out of here. Everybody have a great week. Thank you, Chris Coates, for coming on down.
Yeah.
Ready?